Welcome, everyone. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are, after this AMA, we're going to head to my mom's. She's always said that we're Irish. You know, we kind of joke, are we really? You know, kind of thing, because I think we were, when we were growing up, we were part of every country in Europe at some point. But she got her DNA tested. My sisters got their DNA tested. So, you know, she says we are Irish, which I'd be more. I mean, that'd be cool. I do like my beer, so maybe it does fit. But she's going to make what cabbage and something else, which I probably won't eat. But going to head over there with my sisters and nieces and nephews and things like that. So that's why this AMA is going to be a little bit shorter. I only had like 5 questions on there, you know, and then it leaves a little bit of room for some Q&A, but I wanted to keep this a little bit shorter because, you know, she's having everyone over at 6, so I'll probably show up, 7:30. She lives a mile and a half away from here, so it'll be pretty easy for me. But
okay.
So this is going to be just a little shorter one.
Yeah, but don't you have to drive through the snow?
No, it is 55 degrees out here.
That's almost like our place here in California.
Yes, we are very, very happy. It was, I think it was close to 60 yesterday, 55 today, but I believe it's supposed to start getting colder again. So, which Beth, my wife, would really like it to be a little colder because she loves our tulip time, and this warm weather is not good for the tulips. They're going to bloom too early for tulip time. I'm like, that's okay. We can have a stem fest. We've had them before.
You know, I'm only about 3 or 4 hours east of you. We were 74 today.
Were you really?
Yeah, so it's Shelby
Wow.
Township.
Nice.
74. That's why I was talking about golfing.
Yeah.
Warmer than here in Central California. We're 61 right now.
Wow.
Nice. We're probably a little bit warmer than that right now. It's amazing.
It's 74 in Allen, Texas now, too.
All right, let me just get my slides. There we are. All right. And I'm not centered there. Let's do that. There we go. All right. Well, let's get started here. Welcome, everyone, to my AMA. As I mentioned earlier, this one's just a little bit shorter. I didn't have as many questions. I didn't offer as many slots for questions because after this AMA, I'm going over to my mother's for St. Patrick's Day. She invited the whole family over at 6 o'clock, so I'll show up about 7:30, which is good, and visit everyone there. So I kept this one a little bit shorter. I knew something was going to go on, either you know, going out meeting some friends or going out to my family. So anyway, this one's just a little bit shorter. So welcome to my AMA for March 17, 2022, and let's get started with some of these questions and see where we go. First question is, well, for those of you not familiar with who I am, I'm trying to make this shorter and shorter and shorter. I'm Dan Wasink, owner everything of Dan's Tutorials, danstutorials.com. That's not dance tutorials, it's DANS. I create tutorials, lessons, and everything for the Mac, iPad, and iPhone. I have over 1,600 of them available, and I have 30 years publishing experience, most of that magazine. And I'm also a former Apple genius. Worked 3 years at an Apple store here in Michigan. I also help out at a local school which uses all Apple products. And the 2 people, I put in about 10 hours a week, 10 to 12 hours a week. The 2 people that I do work with, the 2 full-time people, I also worked with at Apple. So I'm still in that Apple environment working with 1,000 plus devices, helping them out. So it kind of keeps my feet wet in the Apple world. So that's a little bit about me. But let's get on to the questions somehow, if I can. Come on, you can do it. There we go. All right. So this one was actually kind of interesting once I, figured out, looked into it a little bit further. So Betty asks, my devices have learned a misspelling. So is there a way to delete the misspelling, that it learned? And yes, there is. Now, this is on the Mac. There's actually a kind of a neat little trick, and I'll show you how you can see all of the words that you added to the dictionary, and then you can delete them if you want. So if you have a lot of misspellings in there. But first, let's see how we add a word to the dictionary, something that may be misspelled and you want to add it in there, or it's a word that the dictionary doesn't know. Then we'll look at how we can remove it. And then what we'll do is I'll show you how you can actually look at all of the full custom dictionary. So let's go over to my Mac here. And let's first look at how we can have it learn a spelling. And I'm just going to open up TextEdit here. This is just a simple text editor like Microsoft Word, but even I would say even more simple than that. Real basic. Comes on every Mac. It's in your applications folder. So what I want to do is mistype a word. Maybe it's a special spelling or something like that. It could be a name, anything like that. So I'm just going to go with tutorialing. Something along that line. So we have this word, and it is misspelled. So the way that I want to save this, let's just say this is the way that I want to have it. So I'm going to save this misspelling. The way that you do that is if you hold down the Control key and you click on it, you're going to see Learn Spelling. So now all I have to do is just select this, and it learned that spelling. So now it will no longer correct me if I type that in, wrong or whatever, so if there's a special word that you like to save. But now let's say, this kind of goes along where Betty's talking about, it learned this, maybe I did this accidentally. I want to unlearn it. I don't want my Mac to think that this is the correct way of spelling it. Well, the way that you do that is you Control click on it again. So I select it, and then I hold down the Control key. We get a little menu, and you're going to see Unlearn Spelling. That's pretty much all you have to do. I just select that, and now it just unlearned that. Now, if you have a lot of words in there, or if you want to look at your dictionary, there is a little trick to this where you can view that dictionary. This is what I found interesting, and I do plan on creating a lesson on this because I thought it was pretty interesting. First of all, let's go and learn a few words here. So I'm going to Control click on this, and we're going to learn that. Let's go and type in another one. So we'll go another without the H. Like I say, I'm just randomly picking on some words here. I need to learn that one. We're going to go with one more. And let's go with boom. No boom instead of note boom, which is my wife's maiden name. So I double click on it, Control, and then I learn it. So now I have these three words are in my dictionary, my custom dictionary. And what I can do is unlearn any of them by Control clicking on it and unlearning it. But what I want to do is I actually want to view that dictionary. I want to see this list. Well, you can easily do that by going to the library, your Mac's library. Now, you have to be a little careful with this because you're getting into it's a hidden folder. I'm going to show you how you can find that hidden folder. But it's a hidden folder, and there's good reason why they hide it. There's a lot of information in there, and you could mess up your computer. So you have to be a little careful with it. The way that you do that is, I'm going to just delete this here. What we do is we go to our Finder, and then when we go up to Go, we can go to these various folders here. Well, there's a hidden folder that you need to go to, and to find that hidden folder, it's called Library. The library is where we have a lot of the system preferences. That's why I have to be a little careful with it. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and look what we have, Library. If I let go of the Option key, that disappears. So when I hold down the Option key, it does show that hidden folder, and now when I select this, it opens it up. And now I'm in that library. And you're going to see there's a lot of different folders in here, and I would recommend staying out of all of them except for one, spelling. You're going to see we have spelling here. And in spelling, we have my local dictionary. That's the dictionary that has those words that I just typed in there. So I just open it up. Oops, quick look. I did quick look there. I open it up, double click on it, and there are my words. So now what I'm able to do is just select it through here. Well, no boom isn't actually a word, so I can take that out, and now I just unlearned it by removing it from that dictionary. And that's pretty much all you have to do. You can also go in here, and if you have a whole list of words that you want to add, you can just start typing them in here, and it's almost like you're adding it to Apple's or your Mac's dictionary. So again, I'll show you, because it's hidden folder, so you just go up under Go when you're in the Finder, hold down the Option key, you're going to see Library, stay out of, whoops, I went too far. Let's try it again. Option key, I go to Library. I'm in my library here. Pretty much want to stay out of all these except for spelling. And then you're going to see Local Dictionary. Double click on it, it opens up, and now I can go and change anything. I can remove words, I can add words. So that's how you can customize or add and learn words in the Mac dictionary just by going and modifying that file, which is in a hidden folder. So hopefully that will help, Betty. I forgot to show everyone when we started out. I was intent on starting out. I did have my lucky glasses here, but you're going to see that they are green, and they don't necessarily work with my green screen. So I really have to go into, there we go, into the green there. But I tried. I did try. Well, they are shamrocks, right? Or they're not 4-leaf clovers, 3-leaf clovers. I think they should be 4.
Right.
All right.
Dan,
yeah.
I have a question. That's for the Mac. How about for your iPhone and iPad?
Well,
Is there a similar way to do it?
You can't get to,
find
there
that dictionary?
is, you cannot get to the dictionary like what we did on the Mac. So you're not going to be able to do that. But I believe it does work similar on the Mac and on the iPad and the iPhone. So this time I'm going to go into my notes here, on my iPad obviously, and I have this word here. You're going to see, hopefully, translate. Well, let me do something else here. We'll go and note, boom. So down here we can type in what we, whoops. I'm hitting too many keys here. There we go. All right, so if I control click, we're going to see if this works here. Translate, share, indentation, look up, continue. Nope, it didn't find it. I know there must be a way.
I think you
They
have
manage
no,
dictionaries there.
Let's see, try it again.
I think you had no boom instead of note boom.
Control,
Look up.
look up,
You have managed dictionaries.
manage dictionaries. Takes me to the settings app. And where is it? I don't see it anywhere. Dictionary. All right, I'm going to have to, like I said, I'm going to create a lesson on this. So what I will do is I will research the iPad and the iPhone, but I don't see it there. I know you have to be able to do it. I mean, there's no question in my mind, and it might have something to do with. Let's see here. Let's try this again. And no, it's not doing it. All right. Down here we have nope, that's just the format. English. Show keyboard, keyboard settings, nope. I thought maybe it'd be in there. Okay, I'm going to look into that. And when I create that lesson on the Mac, I'll also show you how you can do it on the iPad and the iPhone, because I'm sure the iPad and the iPhone work the same way. I just don't see it there. I really thought it'd be pretty easy. Apparently I'm wrong.
Okay,
Replace.
thanks, Dan. I'll stay tuned.
Yep, stay tuned. All right.
I will.
How do you know how to spell?
Enable transcripts. There we go. All right, so next on our list is I have two computers on my same iCloud. This is what you're talking about, right, Frank? Two computers on my same iCloud account. Do I have to back up both computers with the same external drives or just back up one? Is that kind of
Right.
what?
That's one part of it. The
Okay.
other part is when I back it up, I don't know how to separate when I go up to do well, good. Do this, and then when you
Okay.
if I find a problem, then I'll say that's where it is.
All right.
So I'm backing up both of them now on three different external drives.
So with this, if I'm understanding you right, so two computers on the same iCloud account. I do the same thing. I have two computers on the same iCloud account. Actually, I have three computers on the same iCloud account, along with multiple iPads and iPhones. So multiple devices are connected to my iCloud account. Do you need to back up both of them? And I would say yes. And the reason is iCloud is not a backup. iCloud will back up your calendar. It'll back up your photos, because it doesn't actually back them up. It's just in the cloud. So if something were to happen to your Mac, you could download them from the cloud. It's not quote unquote a backup, but it is, you can think of it as a virtual backup. But it does your events, your contacts, all the things that iCloud services do, But there's a lot of stuff that's outside of that. You have folders that, anything, if you've done anything with iMovie. If I go to my Mac here and I go to any one of my user folders here, downloads, movies, music, pictures, public, those are not backed up. And if I add any folders to this, they are not backed up. So right there, anything here on any of those separate computers or devices, they're separate. So that's why you want to do that. On top of that, if you do not use iCloud Drive for your desktop and documents, I do use iCloud Drive. So you're going to see I have here iCloud. So my documents and desktop are stored in the cloud. So those will be backed up virtually. Basically, if I were to lose my computer, I could download them from iCloud, my desktop and documents folder. But, which actually, Chris, carries on to your question, which we'll get to later. But it does not back up any of these. And if you're not using iCloud Drive, it will not back up your documents and desktop folder. So, yeah, I think it is a good idea to use Time Machine. On top of that, the last thing is, outside of that, if something were to happen to your computer, and let's say you had to restore your backup or whatever, it is so simple to do when you have a Time Machine backup. You could have a brand new computer. You plug in the computer, or you turn the computer on, you plug in your Time Machine hard drive, and then your Mac will ask you, do you want to restore from a Time Machine backup? You say yes, and you select that Time Machine backup, and boom, everything's right there, just like you never lost it. And you can, I recommend having a separate, you can back them all up to the same hard drive. You just kind of sneaker net them around. You can't do it all at the same time, but you could unplug it from one device, one computer, and plug that hard drive into another computer. I don't recommend that because if that hard drive were to crash, you've just lost all of your backups for all of your 2 or 3 or 4 different computers. So really what you want to do, hard drives are relatively inexpensive these days. Buy a separate hard drive for each device. So my MacBook Pro here has a separate hard drive for its Time Machine. My MacBook Air has a separate hard drive for its Time Machine. And then the one at, actually the school is not backed up, but that one, if I use that for my personal account, I would have a separate Time Machine for that one as well. Then I don't have to worry about one of them crashing. And on top of that, what you are really doing by doing that is you're building redundancy. So now you have basically 3 backups, which is really kind of nice, as opposed to having one. If one of those hard drives were to crash, you still have 2 other ones. Let's just say you had 3 computers like what I do. If you have 2 computers, you basically have, built in 2 different Time Machine backups for redundancy for the most part. I say for the most part. So yes, I recommend absolutely Time Machine backup, even if you're using iCloud. And then on top of that, make sure you have a separate hard drive for each device.
What I have 3 external drives, and I back up both computers on all 3 at different times.
Oh, that's fine too.
So-
Then you're really, yep, you're moving things around, but that's fine. Just as long as there's, the main thing is you don't want to have all your backups, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So you don't want to have all of
Okay,
your backups in one. That's the main
A
thing.
question.
Could I have a follow-up on that too?
Sure, go for it.
You talk about Time Machine, you talk about separating on a disk.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I just go in and I just do Time Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have it separated. That's just what's on the disk. There is a way, the partitioning, I think you called it. Is that right?
Yeah, you can. You can partition a hard drive, and that's getting low level kind of stuff. And when you partition it, it's almost like you're separating a hard drive into 2 separate hard drives, even though it's on one disk. It's in the virtual world, it's like 2 separate hard drives. I don't necessarily recommend that. If you want to put 2 time machines on a hard drive, your Mac will do that automatically. It'll call one time machine backup. In my case, it would call it Dan's MacBook Air. And in the other one, it would call it Dan's MacBook Pro 16-inch or whatever I named it. You're going to see 2 folders there. If I had 10 computers that were backing up, let's just say I was going extreme. If I have 10 computers that are backing up to the same hard drive, I would see 10 different folders for Time Machine. And Time Machine would know which one to go to back it up and restore. So you don't have to partition it.
Then one other backup question again is when I go into Time Machine and try to isolate something that I lost, like I had it, I can't find it, but I know if I go back a week, it was there. I didn't do it. I have difficulty doing that. I must be doing something wrong. I see it. I see a date and I pull it up, but then how do I go find what I was looking for in that Time Machine?
Do you do it through the menu bar here?
Yeah, no, right there. That's what I do. I have it up there.
Okay.
And I click on it and it gets Time Machine.
I don't have it up there, so let me put it up there a minute. Show Time Machine in menu bar. So when you go here, I'm going to enter my Time Machine.
Right. Okay.
This might take a minute because it's a network drive. It's not connected hardwired. Over on the right side here, you can select your date, and then you can go back. So if I wanted to go back to Friday, March 4, I click on it. And now it's loading all the files. Like I say, this is running a little bit slow because it is not connected. It's connected wirelessly. But eventually what it will do is it will show what is on my desktop, which I might not have anything on the desktop because this is my demo. I don't keep a whole lot on here. But
that's what I was trying to do. I had a lot on my desktop, and then I got a new computer, and it was gone. I couldn't find it.
Right.
After I got, so I said, well, let me go back a week before I bought it. It should be there. And it would come up on this, is what you say. If I just go back to that date, click like you do, I should see it there.
Yep.
And how do I get it to put it on the present
So
one from there?
what you'll do is if I had a file here, I would just select it, or select multiple files. And then down at the bottom here, you're going to see restore. And,
Okay.
And it'll restore it to the desktop folder. So because I'm in my desktop folder, it restores it back to where it was. Now the question is, did you delete everything off of your desktop, or they're just when you got the new computer, it didn't transfer?
It went somewhere, and I don't know where.
Okay.
But I
So
got it
this-
all back. I eventually got it back, but I wasn't sure what I was doing. But it came back because I store a lot of folders on my desktop.
Okay.
And
I'll show you.
till
I'll show you what may have happened with that. That ties in with Chris's question. I think that's the last question I have. So I'll show you. We'll come back to that.
Okay, that's good.
What
Thank you.
may have happened. I think Chris was talking about she saved something in her documents and then it's not there anymore. That kind of thing. So where is it? And that all has to do
Well,
with
I
iCloud.
have another question regarding Frank had 2 computers, and I haven't gotten my other one yet, which I want to keep my current one on my hobby. but get the new one and put that on OS Monterey.
Yeah.
So do external hard drives related to that?
Okay.
Questions. Okay.
We'll come back to that. Let me get through these, and then we can, get through some of the Q&A as well. So, perfect. All right. The next one is, if my computer would behave properly. There we go. Is there any way to permanently enable the suggested text and dictation bar on an iPad Pro? So I'm going to go to my iPad here, and Mike, is Mike with us here? Maybe not. Okay. So I'll show him. He might watch this later.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mike. I'm assuming you're talking about this bar that's down here at the bottom?
Yes.
Yep. That thing's a pain. I'll go with that. I remove mine sometimes and then I put it back. I'm not sure if I like it or not yet. So basically, when you hook up an iPad to a smart keyboard, for those of you who do not know this, essentially what you get is this little bar here across the bottom, and what it does is it gives you suggestions. You saw me earlier playing with it, where I can go and go in my keyboard settings. I can minimize the keyboard. I can format it, being that this is a note where I have different formatting options here. So we do have different options here, but it kind of gets in the way. It's just floating above here. It's not perfect by any means on this implementation of how Apple did this, and sometimes it can get annoying. So what you may want to do is remove this, which is what Mike is asking. It's pretty simple to do. Basically, all you have to do is go to your keyboard settings. So if I click on this English here, EN, I can go to my keyboard settings. But I'm going to show you the old-fashioned way through the Settings app. I like to just go, it's more the root way of doing it. In case Apple were to change something like this, then where do you find it? So if we go to our Settings app, and then you go over to General, what you're going to see is Keyboard. This is where we have all of the different keyboard settings. So we have a lot of different settings here. The one that we want to turn off is predictive. When I turn this off, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to show so we can see it down here at the bottom. And now when I turn this predictive off, we can see it disappears. And then if you want to turn it back on, you just turn it back on. So you can easily turn it on and off just by going to that predictive. Actually, there's quite a bit. You're going to see I still have dictation here. I believe I can turn that off too. And now dictation, if you don't want to have that microphone there. Oh, it's still there. But basically, you can kind of play around with, I do use dictation too. But basically, you can kind of play around with what you want to see and remove some of the features just by turning some of these sliders off. And the trick to seeing it work in live, like what I'm doing here, is go up and put your cursor into a search field. So I have my search here, and then I just type like I'm typing something. And now what you can do is you can actually play around with this and see how it works, like get a live preview. That's the trick to making that work. That answer the question there?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. All right.
It works for the iPhone too.
Works for the iPhone too, yep. All right. So Doug asks, I have a series of Keynote versions that appear in my Recents folder. If I click on Remove, does that delete the file? Oops, sorry. There we go. All right. I have a series of Keynote versions that appear in my Recents folder. If I click on Remove, does that delete the file or just hide it? It deletes it. So I'm going to go to my Mac here, and what Doug is talking about, if I go and open up a new Finder window, what we have here is Recents. And I'm starting to get used to this, in all honesty. I hated this thing at first. It's been around for a few years, and I don't like it. I'm seeing all the students use it at the school. That's basically how they get around. They don't do folder hierarchy. They use Recents. And I'm starting to embrace it a little bit more. I am finding myself going to it more and more. But anyway, if we go and enable our show path bar. I have it's under, it says hide path bar. That's because it's enabled. That's this path bar that's down here at the bottom. So when I select a file, what I'm able to do is see where that file is. So what I did to test this out is I opened this up. So I'm going to open up the preview folder here. So there it is. There's my preview folder. Now I'm going to go back to my recents here to see if it deletes it or if it hides it, because I wasn't sure either. So I go to recents here, and there's that image. So this image is in my recents folder, but really it's in my preview folder. It's just in a folder for my preview app. Now watch what happens when I delete this. I'm just going to delete this. I drag it down to the trash, and we can see it removed it from that folder. So it doesn't hide it. It does indeed delete it. So you could use this, to, if, let's say I no longer wanted to have this file here, although I do because I do like Bruno Mars, but if I no longer wanted to have this, I could just delete it and it'll remove it from the original folder, even though I'm removing it
Thank
from
you,
the
Dan.
recents. All right, what do we have next? Come on. There we go. All right. So actually we're on the, wow, this did go quick. Some of my files are not in my documents folder. Are they in iCloud? So Chris, I think this relates to you, and I believe this could relate to Frank and, some of his files. Where did they go?
This happened within the last couple of weeks when all of a sudden everything went to iCloud.
Mm-hmm.
And I was missing the desk items on my desktop, just like
So
Frank was
I'll
talking.
show you how that happens. And it's just.
And the other thing is, sometimes when I click on something, on the right side it says preview, and I thought, well, when I click on it, nothing opens. The document doesn't open. So the connection between preview and iCloud, I was frustrated.
All right. Well, let's see if we can explain what is going on. I'm just going to show you on the Mac, but it works the same way. Yeah, no, it doesn't work because we don't have a desktop and documents folder on the iPad. All right, so on the Mac, traditionally, what we have in our users folder, everybody has a users folder. So this is my users folder, Johnny Appleseed. This is my fake account. And when we're in a users folder, I'm going to open up a different users folder here. Let's go to Johnny. All right, here we go. So I created another account called Abigail. And with this one here, we do have a desktop documents download. So that has its own desktop folder. It has its own documents folder. And it all is within this folder here. It is not in iCloud. So I believe, and this is traditionally how it is set up on a Mac. Your desktop folder, anything that I place on the desktop here is going to go into the desktop in your desktop folder. So what Apple did a couple years ago with their iCloud is they enabled the option to store your desktop and documents folder in the cloud. So now, in Abigail, it is not in the cloud, but if we look at Johnny Appleseed here, it is in the cloud. That's why you do not see a desktop or documents folder here, because it's in the cloud. So it all depends on if those folders are in the cloud or not. I still have, or Johnny Appleseed still has a desktop and documents folder, but where it is over here in iCloud. So when I click on iCloud here, you're going to see desktop and documents. So what can happen is your desktop and documents folder, I'll pick on Frank here. He had them in his users folder, and somehow, and I believe what's really happening, and I've read that Apple is really pushing for iCloud Drive. I believe with one of the latest updates, it might be the latest update that they just did, came out with it yesterday. I have read that they enabled the iCloud Drive for desktop and documents automatically, which means things can disappear. They didn't actually disappear. What it did is it moved it from your computer over into iCloud. So my guess is with Frank, and I'd be curious to know, is if you go to your iCloud Drive and you go and look at the desktop folder, if all of your stuff is there. I'm not saying you did it, but Apple in their infinite wisdom, sometimes their updates will automatically enable this stuff, and then boom, it's gone, when really it's not gone, it just moved into iCloud. The way that you can see if you are using iCloud Drive for desktop and documents is in your system preferences. So if I go up to my system preferences here, and we go over to iCloud, which is under Apple ID, it's kind of a hidden thing. I'm not a big fan of that either. But if we go to iCloud here, and then you're going to see somewhere in here, where is it? See, they moved things on me. Yesterday they came, oh, there it is, iCloud Drive, sorry. Yesterday they came out with a pretty big update. Some actually pretty cool stuff that came out with it. But I have iCloud Drive here. We can see that I'm using it. It is on. But that doesn't necessarily, just because it's on, doesn't mean that I'm using my desktop and documents folder in iCloud. All this does is this just enables iCloud Drive. So I can see it in the side here. Has nothing to do with desktop and documents. But now when I click on iCloud Drive here, options, now what I'm able to do, wrong one, iCloud Drive, there we go. What I'm able to do is set if I want to use my desktop and documents, store my desktop and documents in the cloud. So basically what is happening, I think, is this was unchecked and then it got checked. And when it gets checked, it moves your desktop and documents from your computer into the cloud. So now what you have to do, instead of going to your user here, you're going to see that it's not even there. What you have to do is you have to go to iCloud, and now I'm looking at my desktop. I add a new folder here, it adds it here. But it's also in the cloud, which means I can get at this from my iPad and my iPhone, being that it's on the cloud. So essentially, if I go to my iPad here, and I go to Files, and I go to Desktop, eventually what I'm going to see is that folder there, because I just put it in the cloud. It can get a little confusing, but I believe that is what is happening. So.
I think that, Dan, I think probably what happened was it was on the new computer that I bought. I bought the MacBook Air for the M1. I wanted the M1, and it was gone. And then I was able to get it back. So maybe that's what happened.
Yep. And to add confusion, if you're already confused, let's just confuse you a little bit more. If you go and turn that off. So I'm going to go and turn that off here. We go to iCloud here. Now remember, I do not have in my user folder here, I do not have a desktop and documents folder, right? Well, if I turn iCloud Drive off or turn that off, that option off here, what it's going to do is it's going to add a desktop and documents folder here, but it's also going to keep it in the cloud.
Done in the toaster oven.
Whoop. Looks like we need to.
So make sure it's turned off, and you can cut it in half.
I'm going to mute all here. So if you need to ask a question, you'll have to unmute yourself. So basically what's happening here is it's going to create a new desktop and documents folder here, but it's also going to keep it in the cloud because it doesn't move them. So all of a sudden, you're going to have two desktop and documents folders. So I'm going to turn this off and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to turn it off. And lo and behold, we have my desktop and documents. And in iCloud Drive, I have my desktop and documents. But they're two separate folders. Now they are completely separate. So I had to add confusion to it. So if you use desktop and documents, I recommend checking that and leaving it. You don't, because otherwise you're going to end up with duplicates, and it can become a mess. So, but and same thing with you, Chris. My guess is that's probably what happened. I'm not saying that you did anything. It's just sometimes these updates do that, and I've read that some of these later updates will do stuff like that automatically.
And my MacBook is on the Mojave, so I mean, something
Yep.
could have happened because of that.
Right, and this whole setup here is, I believe, available in Mojave too. This is not a Mac OS Monterey thing or anything like that. So, but that's basically what happens when you lose folders. I've heard this numerous times, and I can as of right now, I'll knock on wood. Every time I tell someone, just look in your iCloud and you'll probably find it there, they always come back and they're like, that's where it was. It's, just things get moved around. The computer doesn't necessarily delete anything on its own, but it will move them on its own if you enable that. So, Now, did you have
Dan,
that's
may I ask a question about backups or external hard drives?
Yeah, go for it.
I recently bought a LaCie to use as a backup on my iMac, and it immediately asked me to reformat the drive because it didn't seem to want to recognize the iMac. Now, is there a brand that automatically works with iMacs, or do I have the same problem with all the new ones?
It's not I wouldn't say it's a problem. So basically what's happening is when you buy, every computer operating system works with a specific file system. So Windows works with MS-DOS and FAT32. And it's basically how would I put an analogy to this? A road. You can have pavement, you can have cement. It still does the same thing, but one's pavement, one's cement. A Mac needs to have cement, and Windows needs to have pavement, kind of thing, tar or whatever, blacktop. So essentially, when a computer manufacturer or when a hard drive manufacturer makes these hard drives, they make them for the most common computer out there, Windows, of course. So it's going to be pavement. It's going to be blacktop, and you need to make it, into cement. So what you can do is you can buy a hard drive that is formatted for a Mac. Then it's going to use APFS is what the actual acronym is for it. But the problem with that, and it's not necessarily a problem, is it's just costs more. Hard drive manufacturers charge you a premium for that. Even though there's really nothing different. It's still a road, it's still formatted. So, point being, when it's a brand new, Fran just ran into this, she just asked me this, she bought a brand new hard drive, and I think we ran into this with Chris, and not run into it, we saw this happening. When you buy a brand new hard drive, so there's nothing on it, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be formatted for Windows. All you have to do is plug it into your computer, you're going to say that you want to use this for time machine backup. The Mac will recognize that it's formatted for Windows. It recognizes that it's blacktop, and it says, I don't need blacktop, I want cement. And what it'll do is it'll completely wipe it out, and then it'll reformat it for the Mac, and it'll put APFS on it. It'll lay the cement down as opposed to the blacktop. So it erases everything. So think of it's ripping up that road, and then it relays it out, and then it goes forth and does what it needs to do for the Mac. And it's all automatic. So essentially, point being, you do not have to buy a Mac hard drive. And if you have nothing on that hard drive, it's brand new, let the Mac do it. It's going to erase everything. It's going to strip it down to nothing, and then it's going to reformat it. Might take a few minutes, doesn't take too long. And then all of a sudden, it's all formatted for the Mac, and it'll start using it as time machine backup. So no, you don't have to buy a Mac hard drive.
Can you start? Can you show the beginning of that reformatting process?
Show the. I don't have a brand new hard drive, so I can't show you how it works. But basically, what it'll do is a little dialog box will come up, and it'll say, "Do you want to erase this hard drive?" Or it'll ask you if you want to format it, and you just say yes, and it'll go and do it. It'll erase everything, but it's pretty self-explanatory. So, but if you have a question on it,
Probably.
send me a screenshot. You know, you're talking about erasing a hard drive. I'd say Fran ran into this, and she just sent me a screenshot, and she was like, "Is this okay?" And I said, "Yep." You know, so send me a screenshot if you're concerned. You know, but essentially, if it's brand new, you don't have anything to worry about because there's nothing on it anyway.
Dan,
right,
a
thank
comment
you.
about that. If you don't want to use it for Time Machine, what I've done is when I've got a drive that came formatted for Windows, is I've launched the disk utility on the Mac, and you find it in the menu, and then you can tell it to format for Mac HFS rather than FAT32.
Yep.
And that way, because I didn't want it to be used for a Time Machine, I just wanted it to be used as a regular drive.
Yep. So
Thank
what
you.
he's talking about there is, so the Time Machine will format it for you automatically. But if you want to format it yourself, and I'll go with this. If I'm going to show you how you can do it using disk utility. But if you're not comfortable with it, because you could erase a hard drive, you know, you're getting to core level stuff. So you have to be a little, you know, just be conscious of what you're doing. You let Time Machine, you know, just plug in a brand new hard drive, let Time Machine go and format it for you, and then go back into Time Machine. So if I go to my system preferences, I go to my Time Machine, and basically when I select the disk, I would just say remove it, and it will no longer use it for Time Machine. And guess what? It's formatted for a Mac. So it's a way of formatting the Mac without having to go into disk utility. You know, if you want.
I can see where that would be a bit safer to do. Yeah, I can see that. That's a good tip. That's a good tip.
But you can, with disk utility, again, I do not have a drive connected to this. I didn't, let's see here. I do have drives, but I didn't plan on. So I go into disk, so I'll start over. This is in your utilities folder of the applications folder. This is on the Mac. You can't do this on the iPad and the iPhone, of course. So when I go to my applications folder, you're going to see that I have a utilities folder here. I can also, when I'm up in the Finder here, just go to utilities, and that opens up that folder. So either way, what you need to do is you need to get to this disk utility. And this disk utility has been around since Mac OS 10 has been around. It's been around forever. And it's changed over the years. The look of it has changed, but for the most part, it does the same thing as before. And essentially what you're able to do is select a hard drive. So this is my hard drive here. And if I wanted to partition it, erase it, I click on partition it, and then I can select APFS. I click on apply, and it'll erase it. Now I can't do that here because this is my actual hard drive to the computer, so it's not going to allow me. But that is in it in a nutshell. You can also click on erase. Let's see here. If I go here, nope, it won't let me erase that. How about this one? Okay, here we go. So this is an external drive. I go up to erase. I'm not going to erase it, but here I can go and name it. And then I just go and select APFS. I would select APFS. I don't know why I put case sensitive, but really it should just be APFS. I did this one wrong. This is why you want to be a little careful with it. This should not be case sensitive, but APFS. And then I would click on erase, and it'll just go and erase it. But like I say, your best bet, what I would do if it's a brand new hard drive, it's a workaround, but it's a little safer, and you're going to get the right format. As you can see, I formatted it wrong, and I do this on a regular basis, and I still messed up. So if you don't do this on a regular basis, it makes it even easier to mess up. So plug in the hard drive, go to your Time Machine, select it, go and add the thing. It'll go and format it and all that. Once it formats it, it's going to start using it for Time Machine. Just go back into select disk, remove it. It's going to be formatted, and you can use it for whatever else you want. It's not going to be used for Time Machine, so it's a little workaround, a little safer. So
I agree. Safety first.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, if you put a partition on a disk, how does it show up in Finder? Does it show up as a...
Yeah, it shows up as a separate hard drive. Yep. So basically what it would do, I don't have one here, but if you partition, and partition is starting to be a little different now with so with the old school, there are many different formats for a hard drive. Like I said, there's MS-DOS, there's, now I forget what it is with Windows. There's half a dozen, maybe a dozen.
FAT32.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's, and each one has its advantages and disadvantages. Primarily, the old ones are for older computers, and the new formats are for newer computers. The old ones, like MS-DOS, couldn't handle large files because back then, 20 years ago, you didn't have large files. So it wasn't really designed for that. So then they had to come out with, FAT32 or NTSF or something. Same thing with Mac. We had Mac OS X Extended, and then it's great for the external drives, the physical with the platters that spin and all that, but the solid state drives, which is pretty much what everything is now, and what I would highly recommend if you buy an external drive, get a solid state one, no moving parts. The APFS is a better file format for that. It's so as we progress, and improve with these computers, the file system has to keep up with it as well. So that's why there are a lot of them out there. Well, maybe a dozen or so of them out there. So the question is, how do you do it? And back to Dale's question with partition. The old way of doing it, when you format it as Mac OS X Extended, let's just go back into my disk utility here. And it's loading the disks. So I have here, if I go to partition, you're going to see I have here this one big partition. Basically what I'm able to do is split this into two. So it's as far as my Mac would be concerned, when you put a separate partition on there, it's like two separate hard drives. Although it's on one, but it's like two separate hard drives. You can, at the school, do I have one here? I should, no, I don't see one here. At the school, we have these little solid state drives, and we have them partitioned into like 4 or 5 different, so it's like 4 or 5 different hard drives on there. For various reasons, we need to boot up into them, not anything that generally anybody would do at home, but at the school we need to do some special things with them. So we partition them. So you're going to see over here, if I were to partition this, I would have the one hard drive, and then down here I would have another hard drive, and then I would have another hard drive, depending on how many partitions I have. Now, to make it more confusing again, Apple, with their APFS, it doesn't partition them anymore. What it's called is, let's see here, new image. I don't think I'm going to be able to show you because I don't have it. It's called volume. So they don't partition them anymore. It creates a separate volume. So as an example, when we look at this Macintosh HD is one partition, but with APFS, we have 2 volumes. Old school, this would actually be 2 separate partitions. New way of doing it is their volumes. So it's a terminology change. It's a different way of doing things. And just to, the reason why they do this is for security reasons. So they started this with Catalina, I think. All of your operating system is on your Macintosh volume partition. All of your data is on a different volume or partition. They separated those out, and it's a security thing, kind of thing. So if you go to macOS Mojave, like what Chris has, she will not have these 2 things. She's just going to have one partition with one, thing in there, and everything's on that one hard drive. Real simple, but and a quest to make things more complicated or more secure, however you want to look at it, then now they separate them all out. But, which is part of the reason why you can't boot up. We've had this question before. Can you back up or boot up off? Can you have a bootable backup with an M1 Mac? And the short answer is no, and part of that is because of this right here. Part of the reason. So, but partitions will show up as separate hard drives. Short answer. All right.
Why would somebody want to do a partition? Because somebody had done that on my husband's first MacBook, and it created all kinds of problems. We didn't
That's
know
why
until down
I
the
don't
road.
recommend it. It does. It creates problems. It depends on how you want to organize your files, and it's just it could be something as simple as it's just a separate folder. But then why not just create a separate folder, kind of thing. Why create a separate partition? Some people will. We've seen it when I was back at the Apple store, where they will partition their Mac, and then they will use that second partition as a time machine backup. And we'd have to explain to them like that doesn't really work, because if your hard drive crashes, guess what? Your time machine backup also crashed. So you're just backing it up to itself, which really is, but with a partition, you could do that. You absolutely could do that, but it doesn't really. So yes, it's not it's an uncommon thing to do. So why would you want to do it?
That may have been the reason why it was done, even though he had a separate external hard drive for his time machine.
Yeah. And that, people, this, and it's just they don't understand how it works. And they're like, oh, I'll just partition and back it up, to this hard drive. Well, lo and behold, it's the same hard drive, kind of thing. So why would you want to do it? Well, I can explain like why we do it at the school. We do have bootable drives. So, if I need to boot up a Mac in Mac OS Mojave, what we need to do is we need to create a partition with Mac OS Mojave. Well, now I need to boot up in Mac OS Catalina. That same hard drive will have a different partition, so it's like it has a separate hard drive, and it's going to have Mac OS Catalina on it. Or maybe what I need to do is I need to boot up into a special operating system that has some of these special tools. I don't want to have a separate hard drive for each one of those. It's not like it's a backup or anything like that. So what you do is you partition that external hard drive. So in the virtual world, it does have 2 or 3, or it's almost like you have 4 or 5 hard drives. I plug it into the computer and I can select which one I want to boot off of. So that's why you would want to do it. It's more for troubleshooting, diagnosing, that kind of thing, which it's more of an extreme case. But most people don't need to do it, and I dare say 9 out of 10, if not more, don't. There's no reason to have a separate partition. And if anything, exactly like you said, it makes it more complicated. So I don't recommend it. We do it at the school, but that's because we have to, based on our situation. But that's because we're a school, and we have to diagnose and do all this other stuff. So, all right, I believe that is it. Like I said, it's relatively short. Sorry to keep this a little bit shorter. Next week, I do not have a class set up because we're going to be going to Florida. I do have some stuff lined up. So what I'm going to do next week is continue on, being that this is a shorter AMA. I'm going to just schedule another AMA for next week, Thursday. So then we can kind of continue this with more questions and things like that. I'll end with some of the things that this is really kind of cool. It's a new thing that Apple added with the Mac and the iPad, and basically it's called universal control. Have anyone heard of that term? Okay, so essentially what you're able to do with universal control is share your Mac's trackpad, mouse, whatever you use for cursor, and the keyboard with your iPad. It's really kind of a neat concept, and in reality, it works quite well. So let me see if I can find my right camera here. If I have it here, I think I still have it. Is this the one? Nope. How about that one? There we go. All right. So we're looking at my iPad here, right? And we are looking at my Mac. With universal control, and I created a video on this, so you'll be able to see this, but I'm actually kind of excited about it. I thought I would leave with this because it's really kind of cool. With universal control, what I can do is I can take my keyboard or my cursor here, I'm on my Mac, And all I have to do, oops, I have to turn it on. I did turn it off. Universal control, we need to turn it on, done. Now, my Mac cursor, when I move it over to the edge, oops, this edge here, you can see it moved over to my iPad. So basically, I'm able to control my iPad, and I'm still using iPad OS. This is not a separate display. This is my iPad. And then I move my cursor back. It goes over to my Mac again. So what you are able to do with this, if you do not have, I have a smart keyboard, but let's just say you didn't have a keyboard on your iPad. What you're able to do is with this universal control, you do have to have macOS Monterey 12.3 and iPad OS 15.4. Essentially what you're able to do, let's say I wanted to type a note. I can just move my cursor over to here. I'm just using my Mac, and I can go and type a note. Oops, let's try it again here. There we go. Type a note, and I'm using my Mac. In fact, I think I have another camera here. I had this all set up for my video. Face cam? Yeah. So here you can see, I'm just typing, but if we look at the iPad, and all I'm doing is just using my trackpad on my Mac. It even goes reverse. I can take my iPad here, and I have my cursor here, and when I move it over to the edge, I'm controlling my Mac. We can even go as far as taking this image. I'm more comfortable on my Mac here because it's in front of me. So I have this image here. I want to move this over to my iPad. This is in my Notes app on my iPad. I'm on my Mac, as you can see. I just click and drag. Come on, you can do it. There it is. And there it is on my iPad. On my Mac. So that's universal control. It's it's actually pretty impressive. I just wanted to leave with that because I thought that was really cool. I like that. All right. Thank you,
Dan,
everyone. Any other questions?
Well, the universal control, do you have that on your tutorial that you can go
Yep.
over that?
Yep. I created a lesson. It will either be up live tomorrow or Monday.
Okay, thank
But
you.
yep,
Thank you.
I do have that. The other thing that they did, which was really cool, is, I don't know, for those that have an iPad, you may have noticed that when you flip, here, I'll go with my camera here. This is another, and I created a video for this too. Like I say, I think I said it at the beginning, these latest updates were pretty big. They added some nice stuff to it. Let me go back over here. I'll end with this because it's cool. I got to find the right camera here. There we are. All right. So I have my iPad here, and actually I have to unplug it. So you're not going to see you're just going to see an empty shell there. But basically what I'm able, when we use the volume control, let me see, get this straight here. The volume control here, if I turn it down, if I hit this button on the right, turns the volume up. And then when I'll show you how it used to work before yesterday. Okay. This is how every iPad worked before yesterday, unless you had an iPad mini 6th generation or something like that. But basically, let's just say this is how every iPad worked. So I have my two volume controls up here, and if I hit the one on the left, you would think that that would turn the volume down. But what it does is it turns the volume up. And then when I hit the one on the right, it turns the volume down. So it's backwards. This is what we've always been used to. I never really thought about it, but it's backwards. And probably what I do is I think in my mind, mentally wise, like, oh, you know why? That's because when you use it like this, you hit the top button, it turns the volume up. You hit the bottom button, it turns the volume down, right? If I flip it like this, now the bottom button turns the volume up. The top button turns the volume down. again, we flip it in our brain, that kind of thing, and that's just how it works. Well, now what you can do, let's see here. If I go into the Settings app and we go to Sounds, you're going to see it says Fixed. You can't probably read it, but it says Fixed Position Volume Controls. I'll have a lesson on this. If I turn that off, they are no longer fixed. It's what Apple calls dynamic. Now it'll change those volume controls based on the orientation of the iPad. So we're going to start back at the beginning here. Top button, just like before, turns the volume up. Oops. Turns the volume up. Bottom button turns the volume down. But now watch what happens when I flip it around. Top button actually behaves like it's supposed to. Turns the volume up. Bottom button turns the volume down. And
What was that control in settings again?
it's in Sounds. You need to have iPad OS 15.4. It just came
I
out
do.
yesterday. So, it's in the settings. You go to Sounds and you're going to see fixed.
Sounds. Okay.
Yep, fixed position volume controls. And when you do that,
Cool.
now these here, again, are going to be working the way they should be working. I hit the button on the left, it turns the volume down. I hit the button on the right, it turns the volume up. So it dynamically changes what those volume buttons do based on the orientation of the iPad. And you do have to turn that on. It is off by default. And it is new with iPad OS 15.4. I always have to think about that. A couple of neat things that they added there. And I did, like I say, I created some lessons, so you'll see those, if not tomorrow, probably be next week, but you'll see them next week on the site. And I kind of go through how all that works. So, all right.
One
that-
quick question
Yeah.
for you for some other time.
Next
is
week?
just to talk about the Mac Studio and that versus the Mac Mini.
Yeah, I can
Like
do
I
that.
wanted an iMac 27-inch, and
Yeah.
that seems to have gone by the wayside with the
They are.
now Studio display.
So iMac
But-
27 is no longer. You can't buy it
Right.
anymore. Don't know if they're coming out with it or not. Some people say they are, some people say they aren't, but we never know until Apple decides. In a nutshell, even like me, I've got, if you were to look at my setup, I got a lot of stuff going on here. I wouldn't buy a Studio. Studio is really, it's a pro machine. It's a pro machine and prosumer, I would say. Professional for consumers.
Don't need
The
that.
only reason why I would buy it, and like I said, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cameras, and my computer's handling it pretty good. It's a MacBook Pro, 16-inch. The only reason why I might buy it is because I need more Thunderbolt ports. That would be it. And which is I'm looking at possibly buying a Mac Mini, even for even though a Studio
That's
would
what
be
I was
perfect.
investigating, but they talk about Bluetooth issues, and I was wondering if you'd heard anything about
No,
those
if,
kind of.
if a Mac Mini has Bluetooth issues, then the Studio is going to have Bluetooth issues. I wouldn't know. I hear great things about the Mac Mini, and the Studio is just an amped up version of that. And I don't
Right.
think that 9 out of 10. Again, back to the 9 out of 10 people. It's overkill for a lot of people.
And you're using a MacBook Air to connect to your monitor.
I am using and I'll do a setup one of these days. I'm still kind of completing what I have, but basically I have my MacBook Pro. This is what everything is running off of.
Uh-huh.
So everything's plugged into this. This is a Thunderbolt 2013 display, Apple display, still going strong. And then these are just plugged in to this guy, to my MacBook Pro. So
Got it.
Yeah, I just have it's just a MacBook Pro. I mean, it's pretty hefty, but it's a MacBook Pro 2019. Nothing real big.
The M1 chip? Oh, no.
What's that?
Is it the M1 chip?
No.
No.
Mm-mm. That's what I mean. The M1 chips are pretty sweet. And the Studio, that thing is really sweet. But I don't think a lot of people need it. It's for the prosumer, people that
I
deal
don't
with
need it.
high-res files and things like that. So, All right. Let's call that a wrap. And happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Have a
Same to
good
you.
weekend, and we'll see you all next week. We're just going to have another AMA, just a standard AMA, and we'll go from there. So thank you, everyone, and
Thank
we'll
you.
talk to you later.
Enjoy.
So we can ask more questions for next week.
You can ask more questions for next week. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Super. All right.
Dan,
Thank you,
get to
Dan.
that. Get to that green beer. Hurry up.
I know, right?
Right.
I'm going to stay away from the cabbage. I can't.
Just go.
And my mom,
Yeah,
she loves Labatt's beer. So guess what we're going to have probably? Green Labatt's beer. I'm
Labatt's
like,
beer.
shouldn't we have Irish? Shouldn't we have a Guinness? So, but she's 81, so that's all right. I can't criticize her too much.
Have fun.
Have fun. Enjoy.
All right. We'll talk to everyone later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
You.